Thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of Film Reels, where we're going to be interviewing local actress Emily Mills of Chapel fame. So water the plants, put your phone on mute, put the dog to bed, and then your child in the kennel because you don't want to be interrupted for this week's episode.
Okay, drop it or the pregnant bitch dies.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah, I shot her in the head.
Shot me in the head.
And so that was an awesome scene from the show Chapel. And we are joined today with Emily Mills. How's it going, Emily?
It's good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah. So let's just get this interview started off right. Where were you born, Emily?
I was born in Winona, Minnesota.
Winona, Minnesota. I
Way
like
back
it.
when, yeah, not too far.
What was life like growing up?
Well, we moved around a lot.
Yeah?
So I didn't actually live in Winona for very long, but we moved to northern Illinois for a while, and then Oklahoma for a while, and then I came up here for college to Madison. So
Nice.
if you ever hear some hard drawl R's in my speech, that's the Oklahoma coming through.
So, I love it.
Yeah, it comes out from time to time. But yeah, it was good. I I have two older siblings and good parents, and went through my things, but I have no great complaints.
Yeah. Because you turned out to be an awesome person, so
Well,
obviously they did something right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it turned out all right.
Yeah. So were you involved with many clubs in school when you were growing up?
Yeah, for a while I was pretty joiny, but very much the artsy stuff. So I was always involved in whatever the theater program was. At some of the schools they didn't really have an official theater program, so there'd be like a club. But the school in Oklahoma actually had a theater class that I could take during the day, so I did that. But I was in band, I was in choir, I was percussionist since 5th grade. Did choir, did musicals and shows, and sometimes I was in the band, and sometimes I was in the actual production. And, but when I was really little, growing up, my mother was the children's choir director at church, so I was in all of the pageants and Bible story shows. And I think my very, very first role ever was as a skunk in a Christmas pageant. So
Makes sense. Okay.
I've come a long way. I like to think a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so then when you came here, you went to Edgewood College?
I did, yeah.
And what did you study while you were at Edgewood?
I was an English major at Edgewood, and I was also a theater minor, although I have to admit that theater once again sort of took over my life. It was a small, tight-knit theater department, but really great. There was a really talented pool of people there while I was attending, so I got really lucky in terms of just people that were there to work with and the professors. So I ended up doing a lot of tech work there too, because the program at Edgewood is small enough that you pretty much have to do all of the different crews.
Many different hats.
Which I think is super, super valuable as an actor, because I think having an understanding of what goes into things technically is really, really helpful. To keep you humble, but also just to give you a better sense of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I got to stage manage and run lights and sound and do carpentry and all that, and did costumes for a summer as well. That was
wow.
I briefly knew how to sew, and I have since completely forgotten.
But you have acted too while you were there, right?
Oh yeah.
And were there any productions that people have heard of?
A few.
A few.
The very first one I was ever in was As You Like It. I was a minor role in that. So it was sort of great in full circle. By the end of my senior year, I was Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Nice.
Which was one of my favorite roles ever.
It
was a blast. It was such a challenge, but it was really great. And I was the female Greek chorus in How I Learned to Drive. It's a little more modern, a little heavier.
Yeah. That's
totally good.
That's an intense one.
It's a very intense show, but it was a lot of fun to work on. And it's it's like 5 people in the show, so it's fun, sort of tight-knit cast. And then they would occasionally do musicals over the summer, which you would actually get paid to do, which was my first professional work technically. So that was a blast. Yeah.
Nice. So then after you graduated, you went on to go to Moschino, or you were helped out with Moschino?
Yeah, actually my boyfriend, now husband, was involved in Moschino from back when it had first sort of started. And when we started hanging out, he brought me to some of the monthly screenings of Moschino, and it was being run by like Matt Sloan and Andrew Yonda and that whole crew.
Yeah.
And it was super fun. I mean, it was sort of just before YouTube had become enough of the thing. You know, there wasn't really anywhere to show your very independent work. So it was great to have this, you know, excuse to go and see random weird things projected on the big screen. And I ended up learning a lot about filmmaking that way, which was great. So I ended up getting more involved, and by the time Matt and Andrew and all them, and Aaron, I'm sorry, Aaron Yanda. There's two of them. And I get confused all the time. It's terrible.
Like names.
Oh, Aaron and Andrew. I blame them. It's entirely their fault.
Yeah,
anyway, but by the time they were ready to move on, it was myself and Josh Klessig, and for a little while, a guy named Sam Lawson sort of stepped up and actually took over running it for a bit, which was fun.
Yeah.
But it was ultimately just sort of, I think it was hard to keep it together just because people had so much more opportunity to show their work elsewhere. And we had other things going on too, so we had to step back for a time.
Yeah, yeah. And you also were involved with the Mercury Players Theater?
Yeah, one of my friends from Edgewood, a friend named Maury, was involved in Mercury Players and sort of brought me to a picnic they were having the summer after I graduated from college. And I ended up just getting involved, and they had a 10th anniversary show that year, a series of short plays that I was involved in a couple of those, and got hooked, and that sort of was my intro to the Madison theater scene at large as well, which has been very valuable. I've met a lot of great people through it. So.
Yeah, I love it. And what were some of the plays that you put on while you were there?
Well, I was involved in plays both as an actor, and I was also in a lot of pit bands for musicals. So I was in Stage Q did Bat Boy, which was amazing, and I was in the pit band for that. And after the 10th anniversary show, acting-wise, I was in Complete Female Stage Beauty, which was a really great show that Mercury did at one point. I actually participated in a bunch of blitzes, which are their big 24 hours from page to stage festival. So like it was Kino, we had 48-hour cabarets, so you had to make a film in 48 hours. You had to write, rehearse, and produce the play in 24 hours. That's what a blitz is.
That's intense.
It was super intense. And I did it a couple of times as an actor, and then I did it one time. My friend Maury and I actually co-wrote the musical, which was a huge challenge, but it was insane. It was amazing, and we actually pulled it off. We had a musical at the end of 24 hours.
Nice, nice.
Put it up.
That's amazing. I love that. And you do DJ stuff on and off over the years?
Yeah, I picked up my first turntables when I was 15 and sort of noodled with it off and on for a long time, and I've just recently gotten back into it again because the game had changed a lot, so no more turntables as much. It's much more digital, but it means I don't have to haul around a big cart of records anymore, which I'm a fan of. I'm not gonna lie.
Things have come a long way, haven't they?
Yeah.
You're in a band called Little Red Wolf?
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
So that's where that percussion came in handy.
Yeah.
All those years in school band. In 2008, a friend of mine that I actually met through the Madison theater scene, it's all connected, Kelly Maxwell, who's amazing, and then two other people that I sort of knew through another band in town. We sort of all realized that our previous projects had kind of come to a natural end, and we were like, let's be in an all-girl band together. That'll be super fun.
Yeah.
And it worked out amazingly well. We get along super, super well. We're kind of best friends. We've done some touring, released a record. We're actually recording a new record right now.
Nice.
So I've been grateful for that.
When should we expect to see the new album?
This summer.
This summer?
Yep, it'll come out this summer.
You already got one guy buying it.
Awesome. That's all I need.
So you worked with Dane 101. Mm-hmm. Tell us about what it's like working with them.
It's fun. It's collaborative. Dane 101 has been through. It's a Dane101.com. Sort of started out as a collaborative arts and culture blog. And when I came on in like 2006, that's where it was at. And it's evolved majorly over the years. So we've gotten much more serious about local news coverage, and we still do all the arts and culture stuff. Do a lot of play reviews, and we've had a lot of film features on there. We were huge at the Wisconsin Film Festival. Tons and tons of reviews. We usually have like a team of about 10 people who cover the fest every year, which they've been very, very cool to us about it. But our news coverage, and I was covering, we basically when the protests happened here a couple of years ago, we found ourselves optimally positioned to cover it a lot more in depth and timely than a lot of other outlets were. So we learned a lot from that kind of trial by fire and also gained a much larger audience.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, we've sort of been growing it, building it since then. I've moved on to do other things, but I'm still sort of helping oversee. And we've got a great new crew of people who've since taken it over and kind of are running it and seeing what the next iteration of the site's going to be.
I love it. So when you say you moved on and then doing other stuff, you now are the editor for Our Lives?
Yeah, Our Lives magazine.
So talk about that.
The local LGBT and XYZ magazine, as we refer to it. It was founded by the still publisher Patrick Faribaugh, who's amazing, and he had this wonderful vision for a magazine that's very narrative focused. So it's basically just features people in the community and lets them tell their stories about what they do, and it's very much about relationship building and like role modeling, basically for the LGBT community. It's like, hey, look, we do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's very positive. It was a nice change from covering protests and politics.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
lie. And you're also involved with the local roller derby.
I am.
Tell us about how awesome that is.
It's completely awesome. I have been a huge fan of our local league, the Mad Rollin Dolls, since they started, and I believe it was like 2005 or 2006. And I've, watched bouts for years and always wanted to join, but, it's time and money. Roller derby is a huge, huge time commitment.
Oh, yeah.
And it just didn't work out until recently, but last June, I started skating with our rec league, the Mad Rollin Dolls. And that's been a blast. It's nice. The rec league is open to anybody who wants to skate and kind of whatever time commitment you have and everything. Only I joined and I was like 100% right away. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this all the time.
For reals.
I'm here. So I'm a little obsessed. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
But it's cool because it's definitely a place for all sorts of people, and it's been incredible just to see the community that this brings together. And roller derby is almost 100% volunteer run. It's basically an entire sport and community and economy that was built by primarily women for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because you get to hit people and on skates. I can't think of anything cooler than that. I grew up playing a lot of sports and never really felt quite entirely at home in any one of them. And derby's the first one where I feel like all of me is welcomed and encouraged in the community and on the track. And also just a really great team environment. I mean, everybody's very supportive, and you get applause when you fall, and it's not like sarcastic applause. All right, you fell, you did that, you're gonna get back up. It's awesome.
That happened.
It happened. Yeah. So it's fantastic, and it's nice because the Mad Rollin Dolls have been around for about 3 years now, and it's very much become the place where a lot of the girls who get drafted into Mad Rollin Dolls come from Wreckers now, because you've had much more time to get experience and build yourself up, and there's a nice symbiotic relationship between the two leagues. But it's still a good welcoming place for anybody, even if you're not interested in joining MRD eventually. Interesting. We've started actually going out and playing people in other cities now too. We get to do interleague games, so I got my butt handed to me in Minneapolis a couple weekends ago. I got to play with some of the best, like literally the best skaters in the country. Nice. So I was just happy not to have died. That was my major
success.
It was really good. It was really good.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit back to when you were at Wiskino and you met Rob Matsushita.
Like insert some like stars. And washy flashback music. Yeah, I met Rob Matsushita doing Wiskino, and he was also sort of tapped into the local theater scene in general. But that was really where I met him, and we ended up collaborating on a cabaret, one of the 48-hour festivals, early on in like 2007 or so, I think, and did a story about this hapless drug dealer called Chapel. And it was just kind of a one-off for fun thing, but we had so much fun with it that we ended up doing a Chapel story at 2 more cabarets, one that we did in Louisville, Kentucky, because they had a chapter down there for a while, and then another one back here. And after that, I was inspired, and I was doing National Novel Writing Month, so I wrote a backstory. I wrote an entire book about Chapel, and Rob came to me and he's like, how would you feel about turning this into a regular web series? I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So we challenged ourselves to make an episode a month for a year, which we did. Yeah. We, I think it was like, we ended up making maybe like 9 or 10 episodes that year. So there was like a little bit of, but when you're, again, you have like no budget whatsoever, and you're cranking out, the episodes are anywhere between 6 minutes long and 13 minutes long. It's pretty serious work. The fact that we were actually getting it done, but all by the grace of many, many good friends. Chapel is very much a who's who of Madison theater.
It's true.
Being killed horribly, basically, on the show. And both in front of the camera and behind the camera. We've had a lot of really incredibly talented people come in and just volunteer their time to help out. Because it's a blast. It's super fun to work on. Rob's style is very run and gun.
Yeah.
So, there's very little setup. There's as an actor, it's not really an actor's show. Like, you don't have a lot of time to be like, okay, so this is my motivation, and we're going to really rehearse this scene. It's just like, no, go.
Yeah.
And it's been a really cool challenge, but it's also just been awesome.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. So where do you see Chapel going from here? Like, do you think it will go on forever? Do you think there will be one day an end game?
There is an end game. Rob has an end game in mind. There's a Z episode. So every episode's title has been alphabetical.
Really?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you look back
I guess I never,
chronologically,
yeah, I guess that
it
makes
actually
sense.
goes alphabetically. We are up to N.
Oh.
So we are getting ready at some point, hopefully when we have time, to continue with the sort of back half of the show. And we actually do have, like, there's a plan, which is amazing. It hasn't been completely fly by night.
Yeah.
He actually has a general story outline for how he wants it to end by the time we get to Z. Now, I might be 40 by the time we get to Z, but we're gonna keep shooting for it, see if we can get it done.
So N, that's the 14th letter of the alphabet. So you're like halfway through.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I know.
That's incredible.
I'm like, what are we gonna name the X episode? I don't know. Q or whatever. And it's not only they're alphabetical, but they're all words that end in ED too. So it's
Wow.
audited, battered,
Yeah.
complicated, extremed. That was a made up one, but
Yeah. It
whatever.
works. I'll accept it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Emily, for coming here today. This has been an awesome interview.
This is fantastic. It's always fun to talk about yourself for a while. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So this has been another exciting episode of Film Reels. So here we come at you, kicking you in the face again. Wada! So come on by, set up a tent, and then camp out in front because this thing is going to go wood style. Yep.
That was incredible.